Hello, people. It's Monday, and I'm going to talk about another riding. The reason I am doing this is because I was a pretty bad rider, I've said it before, and I've improved. So I want to make sure, I want to just propagate this, that it is doable. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So this is my next understanding of how to become a better rider, and this is still in the section of knowing your bike part. So knowing your bike is as important again to do any kind of riding. So what's the next part of knowing your bike? We talked about brakes, we talked about how to make sure to understand what kind of gears and gearing and RPMs and all that stuff. But another very, very important part of bike is throttle control, because we are on two wheels, and because you're on two wheels, the acceleration of the bike is actually the support it needs to stay on two wheels. So, there's a reason a bike standing still has to be put on stand, because if it's not moving, it's gonna tilt over left or right and you're gonna drop it. So having a particular throttle control or acceleration is very, very important for the bike to stay still, or to stay on two wheels basically. So that's why throttle is important when you get to a stage where you know how to accelerate the bike and brake the bike, okay, stop and all that stuff. But what next? How do you use throttle to become a better rider? And the reason it is important is because on a 300cc bike or a 250cc bike, if you're going on a long stretch of road, you're pinning it to go to actually the speed limit. But on a 1000cc bike, you are just hair triggering it to go to the speed limit. So understanding your bike's throttle control is one of the most important skills on keeping the bike on two wheels. What do you mean about throttle control? Well, if you are going on a speed that is, okay, let's talk about accelerating first. If you're accelerating and you have how quickly you accelerate is basically all the thrill is about a motorcycle is. How do you accelerate? How quickly you accelerate? What kind of gear you are in so you're able to quickly accelerate? But quickly accelerating is just the beginning of what a biker learns. Okay, accelerate. Oh, well, you've seen so many incidents where you accelerate fast enough and the bike just lifts up and you don't know what you're doing. So accelerating quick is not how you learn how to ride a bike. Basically, an even throttle input is what you need to start to get to the bike going. If you want to start, no matter what bike you're a 1000cc bike, you're a 1200cc bike, you're a 125cc bike, you're on a 200cc bike, even throttle input to actually move the bike from its inertia position of 0 is needed for you to actually gain control. The slower you, especially on a bike that you don't understand throttle, or it's a new bike or all that stuff, the slower you start your input, the better it is. Lower throttle inputs, incremental throttle inputs, that's what they call it. As long as you are incrementally doing it, you understand the pace of the bike. And even if it's your own bike, the slower inputs you give is better to understand your bike than to actually give faster inputs. The slower inputs, incremental inputs incremental inputs on a throttle teaches you more about your bike than zipping it. It's very easy to pin it on a high gear and all that stuff, and it's very easy to pin it on 5th gear or 6th gear. But to practice incremental inputs is when you deaccelerate, basically you are just letting go of throttle and grabbing on the brakes. That's pretty much what you do every time there is no deaccelerating. And you go lower, you basically put the throttle to zero and the bike starts to deaccelerate. That's only one input. You are letting go of throttle, it's coming down, and the bike is deaccelerating on its own inertia. But incrementally giving the throttle, that's where the trick is. That's what you need to learn for your own bike. Your own bike will behave different in every gear, but that incremental input, you have to learn how to incremental input your throttles. How quick, how slowly. Again, it comes to the same point that I explained to you in last video. Find a road that works for you. Find a road that is very convenient to you. Find a road that you understand all the curves and niches and all that stuff. And this is where you practice that incremental throttle. Going zip is very easy. You do it, it's a balls to your mouth, and then you understand and all that stuff. But to understand how to incrementally give throttles one at a time, and how quickly the bike is responding to that, and which gear is the optimal gear for that particular incremental input, that is very important. And after you understand that incremental input, the next thing you need to understand is neutral throttle. Neutral throttle is on any turn, on a long turn, neutral throttle is very important for you to not slide the bike out or slide the bike in. Low slide, high slide, whatever. If you learn to understand how to maintain the bike in one particular throttle position, that also comes with your throttle control. How much you want to throttle control it, how much you have learned to throttle control your bike. Neutral throttle is the next step you need to learn. On a turn, or for that matter on a straight, you can practice it on the straight, that I'm not gonna touch, I'm not gonna increase it, I'm not gonna decrease it. I'm gonna keep it at neutral throttle. And I'm gonna keep it at neutral. Most of the accidents on turns happen when you are either too fast into the turn and braking in the middle of the turn, or you are too slow into the turn and you're trying to accelerate so that you can meet the turn. So having an understanding of a neutral throttle, you can practice it anywhere, on the road, wherever. Have a practice of intentionally, again, that comes to the mind. You have to intentionally provide the inputs that you want to learn so that you can understand what output the bike is giving. And if you understand all that, that's where the intentional neutral throttle, if you know how to learn to keep intentional neutral throttle, most of the times in long turns or turns that are big enough, or a highway or whatever, you don't need to brake. As long as you understand your bike's pace and your bike's understanding of where the throttle needs to be for it to maintain a neutral throttle. Deaccelerating, accelerating into a turn, unless you know what you're doing, is the problem that you will always face. The confidence in the turn will come with an understanding of how to maintain your throttle. Throttle control, incremental throttle control, and maintaining neutral throttle. If you can somehow practice that, that will make you a much, much better rider. So throttle control is only incremental throttle control is the understanding that you need to have. And the second thing you need to have is an understanding of a neutral throttle, not deaccelerating, not accelerating, just a neutral throttle into the turn without the use of the brakes and all that stuff. Practice these two, and we'll talk about the rest of the stuff next time.